New York. It has become an annual November stop for the UFC, and it is the Mecca, the arena in which every fighter hopes to one day get the chance to shine.
On November 11th, the UFC is set to add another chapter to its storied history of epic matchups in the famed Madison Square Garden Arena with 2 titles on the line. Former light heavyweight champion Jiri Prochazka looks to make his grand return from injury.
This is an ominous presence coming to you from the Czech Republic.
This guy is a knockout artist. He's unorthodox. He's long. He's big for the division.
Jiri Prochazka is just so exciting.
I want to show the beauty of my kind of martial arts.
He is a goddamn samurai.
Stunned silence in this arena.
Jiri Prochazka is a force to be reckoned with.
Prochazka now has the chance to reclaim what he believes is truly his. But in his way is the former middleweight champion, Alex Pereira.
We've seen a lot of heavy knockout artists. He is the most impressive to me.
Who in no time has emerged as the newest contender at 205 pounds and now aims to become a 2-division UFC champion.
Before this, he was in the most prestigious organization in the world, Glory Kickboxing. He became a champion at 185. He went up to 205 and claimed the belt there as well. He's trying to redo that as well, now in the UFC.
2 of the sport's most compelling figures will fight for the vacant light heavyweight crown in the main event of UFC 295.
São 2 caras experientes, 2 caras fortes, resistentes. Então vai ser uma guerra, vai ser uma grande luta.
The best version of Alex Pereira. That's what I want to see, and that's what I want to handle.
But first, an interim heavyweight belt is up for grabs between 2 rising stars, as Russian powerhouse Sergei Pavlovich looks to use his monstrous power to earn himself a piece of UFC gold.
The power that this man possesses, it's insane. He is a scary dude when he gets going.
And standing across from him is Tom Aspinall, an English brute.
Tom Aspinall is the real deal. He just seems like he's born and bred to be in there.
I'm born for this. I'm ready.
Some of the most terrifying talents the sport has ever seen will go at it in the Big Apple for more championship glory. Come along as we illuminate the stories of those who will compete in one of the biggest events of the year. Let's take an inside look into UFC 295.
Here is the true martial artist, Jiri Prochazka. There is no point of comparison on this entire roster.
When it comes to modern-day mixed martial arts, no one does it quite like Jiri Prochazka.
He is such an interesting addition. I mean, he's so unusual, so different to the current crop of fighters that we have. He does things that other people don't do.
With his unique approach and a deep respect for the traditional principles of this esteemed sport, it would not take long for him to rise within the UFC. After just 2 fights, 2 flashy finishes against former title contenders, it was time for Prochazka to fight for light heavyweight gold.
He's very, very well seasoned, and there's a reason why he's burst on and got himself to a title shot so quickly, because this guy's the real deal.
UFC 275, that will be my night. I'm ready to take the crown, and I will prove that.
After seizing the title in one of the best and most chaotic fights in the division's history,
that's the greatest light heavyweight fight I've ever seen.
There was an immediate desire for a rematch. But after unfortunate news of injury, the belt was vacated. And since his time on the sidelines, a new contender has emerged. A former kickboxing legend who also saw a rapid rise to contention in the UFC, although at middleweight.
Com certeza, minha carreira dentro do UFC foi muito rápido assim.
His power is extraordinary. He flatlines the best fighters in the world.
Since his UFC career began just 2 years ago, Alex Pereira has wasted no time. After 3 fights, he earned a shot at the title against a former kickboxing rival, and like Prochazka, claimed his title in the final round just moments away from defeat.
Já estava escrito, eu sabia que eu ia ser campeão.
It's impressive what Pereira has done in the UFC in such a short amount of time.
But soon after, would suffer a knockout loss in a rematch with Israel Adesanya, initiating the transition to 205 pounds. With initial questions over how well Pereira can handle the bigger opponents and larger threats of wrestling, we've seen his work with the former light heavyweight champion Glover Teixeira pay dividends.
He's only getting better, obviously, training every day in New England with Glover Teixeira. He trains with everybody and said Alex Pereira, in terms of his strength, is different.
And after showing he can stand his ground against one of this division's most elite contenders, Pereira has now earned himself a shot at more UFC glory. Two warriors who live by a different code and who pay homage to those who have come before them will compete in one of the most anticipated stylistic clashes we can imagine.
Two serial killers on either side of the cage in their own right. I mean, Jiri with samurai intensity, and Alex stone. He looks like he's made out of stone, that dude.
Querendo trabalhar uma imagem, né, do índio, resgatar essa origem, né, esse movimento, do arco e flecha, depois
The Book of Five Rings. It's a way of the warrior from the Japanese culture. Martial arts helped me to be more calm, calmness of the mind. That's the main thing.
Both men possess a different level of power and a unique style that is difficult for anyone to read. Procházka has more weapons in his arsenal and can present many problems for Pereira in more areas than one.
Alex is not good martial artist, like on the ground, on the wrestling, but one thing he knows to do, he's striking, and it will be a pleasure to compete him in the stand-up.
He's usually the one most eager to engage, but in doing so leaves his chin exposed. And if he rushes in too quickly against Pereira, he will be susceptible to that deadly left hook. Pereira's assertive style can be a double-edged sword as well, as we saw in his last middleweight bout against Adesanya. His offensive aggressiveness left him vulnerable to counters, and he paid the price. With their explosive style and incredible power, it's hard to imagine this fight going 5 rounds.
Now you have Pereira coming up for 185. He's shown you that he's improved in the grappling department as well. You have two tremendous strikers to show that now they've improved their grappling game.
But you have Procházka here, who's been out sitting on the sidelines. There's nothing harder than sitting on the sidelines watching everybody else winning your belt. I expect Procházka to come in here like a mad dog.
After a long layoff, Procházka needs to be a bit more measured and defensive, and maybe try to test Pereira's ground game when the opportunity presents itself. But with Pereira's adaptability, extremely fast growth, and constant activity, he can make it a rough night for Jiri.
This fight's going to be absolutely savage from the start of the bell to the end.
No matter what happens, it will not disappoint.
Let's go. Let's effing go.
We got some breaking news in MMA. The highly anticipated fight between heavyweight champ John Bones Jones and Stipe Miocic has been called off.
The UFC continues to show why it's the greatest show on earth. With the cancellation of the highly anticipated heavyweight title fight between John Jones and Stipe Miocic, the UFC has swiftly arranged another blockbuster matchup. Sergei Pavlovich versus Tom Aspinall is easily one of the best, if not the best, fights that could be made amongst top heavyweights.
It's a hell of a gamble. It's a hell of a story.
UFC, do your thing. Tom Aspinall, Sergei Pavlovich, 2 weeks, take my money. I'll watch them fight every Saturday if I could.
Throughout the UFC's history, we've seen some extremely heavy hitters. But the new era of generational heavyweight power resides in Sergei Pavlovich, who has been on quite the run, displaying every ounce of his jaw-dropping knockout power each time he competes.
Pavlovich has shut off 6 guys in the heavyweight division in the first round in a row. This is Mike Tyson-esque.
But his opponent has also risen to heavyweight contention with quite the buzz. Enter Tom Aspinall, a certain class of heavyweight fighter with a very unique style and skill set. A dynamic striker who also has some big punching power, and who can find ways to end the fight on the ground with his aggressive grappling.
I don't think there's anyone that can stop Tom Aspinall. He's that good. He's that switched on.
To be honest, it's fucking the most dangerous situation you can have. Fighting the most dangerous guy in the UFC on 2 weeks' notice, but I'm willing to put it all on the line.
These are two forward pressure fighters who can end the fight in a split second. With the dangers they pose, it's safe to say this one isn't going the distance. Aspinall is the more versatile and well-rounded fighter. He can present problems for Pavlovich with his hand speed, quick footwork to get in and out of exchanges, and his ground abilities. But he has a habit of leaving his chin up in the air, and he does not want to take any bombs from the monster in front of him. Pavlovich can be overwhelming with his reach, solid boxing, and otherworldly power. If he can maintain a good defense and keep the pressure on Aspinall, he can end it very quickly. With all that being said, who will be the larger force and come out as the new interim heavyweight champion?